you're thinking, what's up with that title? That's a really weird title. What's going on? Um, I have to call out Rusty Spooner, but I don't want to. I'm hoping he comes here live so we can test it out. But sometimes YouTube gets really funky and weird, and it's hard to explain. But when you run a YouTube channel, what I just found out was there's a place in YouTube Studio where you could see people that have been blocked. Sometimes you try to block spam and you end up blocking somebody. Sometimes you get into an argument with somebody and you block them and then you want to unblock them. So you go to this very special site part, a YouTube Studio, and you can look at block people in the community and you can unblock them. It happens all the time, right? By accident, on purpose, whatever. What I found out today was that sometimes, for some reason, I don't know how, some people could get blocked within Google, like the account that the YouTube falls under. And it's a different list of people. And I never found that list before. And today I found that list. And sure enough, on that list was a few people that I actually get along with. And I have no idea how they got blocked. Maybe it was by accident. And I've unblocked them. And I'm hoping that somehow Rusty Spooner sees this video. He may have given up trying to watch my videos because he can't comment and he loves to comment. And I think it's very frustrating for him because I can't see it. But now I think I'm going to be able to see it and I wanted to test it. Anyway, Todd, what's going on? It's good to see you. Gina, Aunt Gina, it is very good to see you. I hope that you are happy and excited to see your nephew back live doing content again. It was way too long without it. We missed him. Um, but anyway, this is really obviously, Frank Reich is the offensive coordinator. I talked about it with Matt O'Leary. I mispronounced his name for the entire show. And there are some people who are very sick, like very weird people out there that have like very severe issues and problems. Rather than just laugh at me for mispronouncing his name, there are people who took it so personally. It's not right to mispronounce someone's name. It's incredibly disrespectful. I don't understand why this person would do that. And like Matt O'Leary had to explain, no, Jeremy just mispronounces things. Like people don't know this. I had severe dyslexia and I needed a speech therapist. And a lot of that has to do with audio too. So it's like this weird thing. I just don't hear things the same way sometimes, and it doesn't come out verbally the right way. It's been a problem my whole life. I have certain words I can't say, and I mispronounce certain things. A lot of times my brain gets twisted with the lettering, especially when something is written. I overcompensate by knowing the rules of English, and Frank Reich's name should be Reich based on the way it's written. In Germany, his name would be Reich, not Reich, but apparently his name is Reich, and that's how it's pronounced. So anyway, because of all this, I mispronounce a lot of not just names, words. There are So anyway, it's Frank Reich, and to the people severely emotionally disturbed people who were trolling in the comments in Matt O'Leary's channel, I wish they would just get a life. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. My new favorite term, by the way. I say it all the time. Um, I'm excited that when Rusty Spooner finally makes his way back to my channel, or when I'm in other chats, I'm gonna be able to see Rusty Spooner. I hope that it's that I was able to remove him from the block list, and he had the old name. It was like the Jedi Rusty Spooner, but I'm sure it's linked to the same account. So when Rusty eventually sees this, hopefully he'll make a comment. Like even if it's not live, I think that he wasn't able to even make comments on the video. Now he'll be able to say, "Hey, Chaos, I could see ya," or "You could see me. I was able to comment." So anyway, I was hoping he'd show up right now. What do you think about Frank Reich? I just wonder how people are feeling. I don't think it's a bad hire. I mean, I'm not good. I'm not doing jumping jacks. I'm not sitting here doing somersaults saying it's the best hire we ever made or anything like that. But I think when you consider the state of the Jets and the franchise and everything, it was a more real name than I expected. Like if you look on the defensive side, we basically, especially when Aaron Glenn decided to call his own plays, you knew we weren't going to get anybody serious. We were going to get somebody who just wanted the title. not somebody who's actually trying to, like has experience and is looking for the next good opportunity for them. Um, but on the offensive side, I think that it's an interesting hire. We could look at his record and people could say, point out the negative, or could point out the positive. The reality is he says many, solid years as an offensive coordinator. He's a knowledgeable, quarterback coach. Like everybody says, oh, we can't develop a quarterback. It's hard to say that. Are we really going to say that Frank Reich can't develop a quarterback? I wouldn't say I know that. The only one that it didn't go well with was Young, but he was only there for his rookie year. But the other quarterbacks he coached did very well. Um, so there's tons of experience. He's a legitimate offensive coordinator. I mean, might not be. I don't know where he'd rank in the league. He's not a top five guy. He's not one of the brilliant minds that we're knocking down walls to get. But hey, I mean, right now, the state of what this team is, it's really hard to criticize or expect for us to be able to attract more. Um, I think the real big news from what I'm hearing in the last bit of interviews and everything is that maybe I'm really, I was in a lot of denial of this. I always thought it was greatly exaggerated. Um, I I'm finally accepting the fact that Woody is not just a bad owner. Woody Johnson is not just a bad owner. I mean, we knew that. We knew, that obviously, it's hard to make an argument that he's a good owner. But I thought there was a lot of exaggeration on how badly he interferes and how damaging that's been to this team. And now I'm starting to realize how real it is based on some of the things I'm hearing, the buzz and what people are saying. And apparently, Woody is everything like the worst case scenario that was being said about him. Apparently, he's really that's why I think you're seeing a lot of these coaches that work for us that got fired getting second chances in other places, because I don't think the rest of the league really respects Woody Johnson to the point where just because you fail for the Jets doesn't mean that people are gonna it's gonna bounce off people. You know what I mean? Like, because it's it's hard to know what's real and what's not real. Like in other words, who really made the moves that were made and how much pressure was being put on our GMs and coaches when they were made. I'm starting to realize, and maybe I'm late to the party and people are going to say it's about time, chaos, but I wanted more evidence. I wanted more proof. I'm finally starting to see valid sources, um, that's making me understand, wow, um, this wasn't something that's just people trying to get clicks. This goes beyond him being a bad owner. He's killing us and he's sick. Like he's a very disturbed individual because he was born rich and he was pampered his whole life and he believes that he's smarter than other people because of money. Because he was born rich and sent to the best schools, he thinks that he knows about football. Woody Johnson has no qualification at all to make any decisions on coaches or personnel. He has no qualifications. He is a snotty little rich boy who was given money since the day he was born and never had to work really for anything. He just went to the best schools and all this stuff, but none of that educates you on how to work with people, how to be a good human being, and certainly not how to evaluate talent or lead talent. He has no business at all mingling and meddling in this football team. Worse than Jerry Jones, because at least Jerry Jones was around football. He was roommates with Jimmy Johnson. You can make an argument that he had some qualification. Woody Johnson has no qualifications at all. And every sports organization, every franchise, because now it's soccer too. You can ask Phil Adams in England, Crystal City, I believe it is. Every organization, every sports organization he gets involved in becomes a mess. And Woody Johnson is the one common denominator for the past 15 years, and the past, I don't know what, 25 years altogether, but the last 15 years, what's the common denominator for the New York Jets? It's Woody Johnson. So really, the real enemy is Woody Johnson. That's the person that's killing us. It's not, forget about being mad at Gase and Salah and we Sam Darnold, and now we're not rooting for this quarterback, and all the names, all the people we were angry at, all the coaches. No, all misdirected. It is time. I'm finally jumping on this bandwagon. It is time that we all get on and share and yell and scream and complain and make sure, because he watches his, we know his grandkids watch, that the enemy, that's right, the enemy within, that's right, that's right, Jets Worldwide, Woody Johnson is the cancer for the New York Jets. He is the cancer. He is incapable of hiring a qualified person and keeping his hands out of it. He is incapable of just sitting in that owner's box and shutting his mouth and letting competent people, it's all he has to do, is hire competent people, people with the track records and experience, offer an executive person who comes from an organization of winning with a good resume. You hire them and you get out of the way and you don't open a word. I don't want you calling our draft picks. We don't want them. That stupid, prunish old man, that egomaniac who has to sit there and get on the phone and talk to the draft picks as if he means anything, as if the players should have any care about Woody Johnson. He is not a football person. He has no business. He deserves no respect. He has no reason. Oh, he's the guy who pays the paychecks. He's the guy taking our money and getting rich. So I know people say, well, he's paying the paychecks, so he's going to like talk to the draft picks like, oh, it's very important because I'm the one signing the contract. No, you bought an NFL franchise. So yeah, you're going to get first round draft picks, and you're going to get draft picks, and you're going to play the players, and there's contracts that are set that you have to pay them. That's you as a businessman. You don't get to take credit for that. You don't get to feel special, and you don't get to sit there and say that entitles me to be the one on the phone welcoming them to the New York Jets as if it means anything. It is a ridiculous little honor that he gives himself that he does not deserve. We, the fans, should be invited randomly into the war room during the draft, and we should be allowed to get on the phone and welcome the new player in. We deserve that. We're the ones paying their paycheck. We're the ones that are loyal to this team, that gives this team a purpose to even exist, not Woody Johnson. For Woody Johnson, this is an asset. This is an asset that has appreciated for him an investment, and his stupid ego that he actually knows anything about anything, which he doesn't. He has been nothing but a detriment to this organization, to New York, to New Jersey, to football in New York and New Jersey, and most of all, to us. And he has got to go. Let me read some comments. Happy Thursday, says Daniel. And Frank Reich can bring staff to the Jets. He knows lots of people. Okay, so Billy is very excited about Frank Reich. How do we start a new franchise in New York? I don't think we can. Mr. Bruno says, you are right about everything you said, but I would argue his biggest flaw is his ego. I said that. He wouldn't hire anyone who would challenge him. All he hired is yes men. I didn't say it in that way, but I did say his ego is a big problem, right? I just said his ego. Bro's got an egg on his shoulders. Yeah, I mean, that you're the first person to ever say that. Wow. I can't believe how observant you are. You must be a 5-year-old. Wow, I'm so glad that somebody was raised to just insult somebody else or take a shot at them to make them feel better about themselves. What an amazing human being you are. Your parents did such a good job with you. Billy, I think Woody knows as much about football as some of us do, but he has to let the people he hires do their job. Don't micromanage. He did hire Rex Ryan. He gets some credit for that. Well, yeah, I'd be careful about how much credit I'd give him for that. Rex Ryan was really good for a couple of years, but he also mistakenly let Rex Ryan control the personnel and destroy our team. Because Rex Ryan, as good of a coach he was when you handed him a team, was not the right guy to have a lot of power in maintaining the roster and building and keeping and maintaining that team. Um, but I would say that I would say if Woody Johnson knows as much about football as me, he should keep himself out of it. Because if I suddenly won 50, $100 billion or $50 billion and bought for whatever reason, I don't think I would because I don't feel qualified to make an investment like that. I wouldn't know what to do with it. But if I did and somehow I found myself owning the Jets, I know people have a hard time believing this, but I really would stay out of it. And I know people saying, "Oh, you're just saying that." That's what people say. No, I honestly would stay out of it. If I honestly would stay out of it if I was the owner of the team. I would do my best to hire the best person. I'd pay whatever it took. I'd get if it was about money, I would pay the best possible person, and I would be patient. I'd be patient. At first they might hire the wrong GM or coach. The first quarterback we take might not work out. I would have continuity. I would just get a proven person who has a resume of winning, and I'd give them time. As long as they're competent and they're operating competently and they have a resume that shows they have competence. I'm not the way this sport works with, oh, you have to fire him because he drafted that quarterback, is so freaking ridiculous. Nobody knows for sure. Nobody's 100%. People don't deserve to get fired because they did something that's 50-50 for everyone, and it happened to not hit. Look, fire people for incompetence. As long as the operation is professional and the scouting and the personnel is run professionally, and you have good scouts and they're doing their homework and somebody is holding accountability, that they're not just looking at YouTube videos and picking that way, but people are in film rooms watching film and they could back up why they made the selections, just competency. But I do not have the knowledge of football as much as I talk about it. Not to be a coach, not to judge and to stick in there and say which players we should go for. No. There are people who played this game. There are people who've done this for 30 years, 20 years, 15 years, been raised in it, whatever it is. I've never done that professionally. I haven't put the hours in where my job 8 hours a day every day is evaluating talent and going to scouting school and all that stuff. So no, um, Woody Johnson should just simply hire a competent person to run the organization and be a businessman, an owner. He's in the owner's box, entertaining people. It's just his business. He's hiring good marketing people. He's making sure his investment's good. Like run it. He's a business guy. But the sports related things, the things related to the team, related to the talent, related to the like trying to win a Super Bowl should not fall under his umbrella. You hire someone who knows how to do that. Someone whose expertise is building an organization, a football organization, to win football games. James says I nailed it on the head. You look, I'm not gonna say Rex Ryan wasn't a good hire. So I'm just saying that I'm just saying that you could give him credit for it, but like I mean, okay, but doesn't stop all the bad that he's done. So he hired a guy who came in and won right away before, so he didn't have a chance to screw it up with Rex because right away Rex won, right? But then when that team disbanded and Rex was gone, and then the team needed to rebuild again, right? And this has been 15 years since then. This has been a circus. And it's not just that we're losing, it's an embarrassment. It's a circus. Telling Mike White that he sucked after playing with a broken rib, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. That's a joke. The carousel of coaching, he's just ridiculous. He's a terrible owner. He's a terrible owner. I don't care if he hired Rex. So in the 25 years he managed to hire a good coach. I mean, not for nothing, but when they hired Rex Ryan, I was very excited. And I had a feeling we were going to win a lot. And I remember a friend of mine said, I think we're going to go on a really good run here. I mean, it didn't take a genius. It didn't take a genius. But being a great leader, being a great executive is find someone with the qualifications and the capability for sustained success. It doesn't mean sometimes you're not going to have off years and have to rebuild, but sustained success, being a respectable organization. This organization, maybe the Cleveland Browns, the Miami Dolphins, those are the three worst organizations in the NFL. And I love it when Dolphins fans say, what are you talking about? Why are we one of the worst organizations in the NFL? You're one of the worst organizations in the NFL because you haven't won a playoff game in 25 years, because you had Dan Marino and never won a Super Bowl with Dan Marino as your quarterback. And because if you look at it, aside from a couple of years where they did manage to make the playoffs and lose one and done, they're a terrible organization. They've done nothing. They've went through coaches. They were embarrassed. They were caught cheating. The owner was cheating and trying to tank on purpose and fired a coach for not being willing to tank on purpose. They're an embarrassment, just like the Jets. So it's the Dolphins, the Browns, the Jets. There are some other bad organizations, but it doesn't get much worse than those three. And obviously, Al Davis's son has done a terrible job, and the Raiders are a terrible organization. Terrible organizations. That's what, and we're one of them. And the way out of it is just because Woody Johnson has the money, the way out of it is just to hire one competent person on top. But he is the common denominator. When you say 15 years without making the playoffs, and you say 15 years for most of those years being terrible and one of the top 10 worst teams in the football consistently for 15 straight years, there's one common denominator. The GMs have changed, the coaches have changed, the players have changed. The only thing that hasn't changed is the owner, the person running the organization. So what does that mean? All these people he fires. Fire yourself. How do you fire yourself if you're the owner of an organization? How do you fire yourself? You hire someone to run it for you, and you get out of the effing way. That's how. And it's not just hiring a GM. Yes, he needs to hire a GM, but he needs to hire a vice president. He needs to hire someone or a president to run the organization. You know what I mean? From 2000 to 2011, the Jets were respectable. It went downhill after that. I agree. Maybe in the beginning he didn't stick his nose in it so much. After Parcells or whatever, whenever that ownership transfership happened, maybe in the beginning he didn't have time to screw it up. But it's been 15 years. You can't go 15 years of failure. It's only because it's in the NFL and connected to the NFL money and the sport of the NFL. If he was any other company, can you imagine if you were like any other corporation, if you were the worst product and the worst ran and had the worst culture and were hated by the public, you'd be out of business. It's only the NFL revenue that keeps him going, right? And our insanity, our mental illness, that we're willing to keep paying money and keep rooting for this team. But he's a terrible owner, and I'm finally on board with it. I mean, telling Mike White to F you to Mike White, you effing suck or whatever, that was really, really bad. But now, from what I'm hearing, telling Aaron Glenn that he has to call the plays after he's interviewing Wink Martindale and then having to tell him, how embarrassing. If that's true. I mean, and now I'm starting to realize it probably is true. So it's just embarrassing. I have Dan Marino didn't have help. Yeah, that's what I'm saying about Dan Marino. That's what I mean. That's why I'm saying they're a bad organization. How could you have Dan Marino and not win a Super Bowl? How could you? Went through his second year and never went back. How? That's what I mean. That's my point. My point that I wasn't taking a shot of Dan Marino. People will criticize Dan Marino for not winning a Super Bowl. It wasn't his fault. He never had a running game. They never thought it was important enough to give him a running game. Right? All those years, they couldn't get him a freaking stud running back. He had a good offensive line. Couldn't get him an offensive-minded person or a person in that building, in that room, to help design a good running game and get a good running back. Right? And then the defense went to crap. They were the killer bees. They were really good. Dan Marino comes, and then after those years, they could never rebuild it. Why was it so hard? Right from the beginning, they had Duper and Clayton and Marino. You had your receivers, you had your quarterback, you had the offensive line who did a great job protecting them. And in all those years, they couldn't build the defense in a running game. All those years to develop and draft the right guys. Why? Because they're like the Jets. Clearly, they're like the Jets. And now they've went 25 years without being able to win a playoff game. That's terrible. That's terrible. To go 25 years and never win a playoff game, that is terrible. Right? And you know what? I'm not sitting there saying, "Oh, Miami's worse than the Jets." I'm not sitting there. If we have Miami fans that watch my channel, they know it. They have to know it. They don't like when I say it because nobody likes when somebody on the outside says it, but they know it. There's no way Miami Dolphin fans are happy with their owner and their organization. They haven't won a playoff game in 25 years. How could they possibly be happy? Would you be happy? Even if we had made the playoffs a couple of times in the last 5 years. You might think, oh, because we haven't been there in 15 years, that's a great thing. But if we were one and done, you still wouldn't be happy. Trust me. This year, next year, whenever we first make the playoffs, even if we lose, we're going to be happy because we broke the streak. It's finally over. We made the playoffs. If we make the playoffs the next year and we're one and done again, we're not going to be happy. Trust me, we're not going to be happy. We're not. We're not going to be happy because the year's going to end with misery. And it'll be the second year in a row we were one and done. We're not going to be happy. We'll be happy the first year we make the playoffs just to get the monkey off our back. The next year, when we make if we made the playoffs, the expectation would be to win a game, to win a playoff game. And if we didn't, we'd be miserable. But there are teams that go to the playoffs almost every year. Sometimes they don't for a couple of years, then they're back in the playoffs. We've had teams literally in this 15-year span go from being really good teams to horrible teams, back to being really good teams, back to being bad. They've went through cycles of being good and bad while we've been bad. Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely insanity. In the time that just in recent times, in the last 5 years, we've watched Detroit go from a horrible for all those years to finally being good, and now they're having problems and dropping off again. It might be over for them. We've watched the Colts in the last 15 years have great times and bad times. We've watched teams go up and down. The Steelers did it without a quarterback, but they didn't win a Super Bowl without a quarterback, right? They have a great coach. When they had the quarterback, they won a Super Bowl. When they had Ben Roethlisberger, they won a Super Bowl. When they didn't have Ben Roethlisberger, when he got old and he wasn't as good, and it was the last couple of years, he was hanging on, then he left. Now they have a great coach they had a great coach who made them or managed to win games with them. But they weren't able to win. They weren't able to win playoff games. But at least the Pittsburgh Steelers are relevant, winning record every year, making the playoffs. In the last 12 years, they've won a Super Bowl. I mean, at least they have that. They're a real organization, right? When there's 32 teams and you've had a dynasty like New England and then Kansas City, that means that a lot of teams haven't won Super Bowls, right? A lot of teams, and it's very hard to name a team that for the last 15 years have been great every year and winning lots of Super Bowls. I mean, Kansas City, as of the last 10 years, obviously, they somewhere in the mid 215, 216, they exploded, right? When they got Patrick Mahomes. So 2018, and even with Alex Smith, they were pretty good. So it was really when they got Andy Reid. So they've been good for a good amount of time. New England had that run with Brady and Belichick, right? So that went 2 decades. So you have a few of those teams. Every other team you could criticize. I mean, Baltimore did a great job. They were great with Flacco, won a Super Bowl with Flacco, then went on to Lamar Jackson and have been up until this year pretty much a playoff team considered a contender. So there have been some very good organizations. Green Bay has had off years, but Green Bay consistently, right? Every few years, Green Bay, you feel like they're one of the contenders that people talk about. Like they're a real organization, right? So there's a handful. There's a lot of teams that struggle, but none as bad as we do. Like when you name the other organizations, other than the ones I said are as bad as us, Cleveland, the Raiders, Miami. When you even Miami is better than us though, because at least they've made the playoffs, right? They've had something happen for them. They haven't won a playoff game though. But most of the other teams that you name, when you start naming other teams, have done things. Even Jacksonville, before Trevor Lawrence, went to an AFC championship game. Like they've done things in the last 15 years, right? As you go through the teams, they've done things. The Chargers, disappointing. We'd be pissed if we were Charger fans. We would. I mean, we wouldn't be pissed if we became, right now, if we suddenly had what they have. But if we would have lived the last 10 years as Charger fans, we wouldn't be happy, Jets fans. We'd be complaining because we keep losing in the playoffs. We're not getting over that hump. We're just mediocre, right? So we would be frustrated. But they're not even in the same world as we are as far as badness. Like they're 100 leagues above us. I mean, we're as bad as it gets. And it's time to admit that. I used to laugh at Cleveland. Oh, they're so bad. But who am I to laugh? How are we any better? How are we any less of a joke? Like I always say, Cleveland, that's where quarterbacks go to die. Where quarterbacks come to die? We are where quarterbacks come to die. Our best quarterback in the last 15 years has been Fitzpatrick, right? Well, maybe you can argue Aaron Rodgers. Not that it was such a great year, but that we're looking at it from the perspective of Aaron Rodgers. For him, it was a horrible year. For if you compare it to his prime, but for us, it was a top performing year. Like believe it or not, we were 5-12. But if you look at Aaron Rodgers' numbers, it puts him in the top 5 for us probably. Right? Ken O'Brien had a bunch of good years. He had a few really good statistical years, but we don't have many quarterbacks or many seasons that we could point to that were very good, like statistically. Like it's really bad. So I'm not trying to be negative here. I think that it's not about being negative because I'm actually hopeful that that we could be good. I'm just pointing out that Woody Johnson's making that very, very difficult. And I'm pointing out that it's been bad and that we're crawling out of the bottom. Like we're crawling out of rock bottom. This organization is a bottom organization. And there might be hope, but you have to understand we're going to have to crawl out of this pit because it's been bad. This last cycle, man, killed me. I thought this cycle started off well. I thought it was going to be this good new cycle in 21, 20 when Gase left and we brought in Salah and we had some good draft picks and we were drafting guys we thought were really good. And Jamal Adams brought in all those picks and I thought things were really good. And this cycle of the last 4 or 5 years was just a stake in the heart, man. Like it's just really bad. But we have a long way to go. Long way to go. I don't know if Aaron Glenn's the quarterback. It doesn't look like he is. So we don't have a quarterback. We don't have a head coach that we could, we'll find out with Aaron Glenn this year once and for all. But right now, we don't have any questions answered. And that's hard. Guys, I got to go. I got a client in 6 minutes. But thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting. Again, Rusty Spooner, if you're out there, you can comment now. I should be able to see you. Guys, if you see Rusty Spooner commenting, and that means I'm not seeing it, and I need to know that something is still wrong. So let me know if he's here and commenting and I'm just not seeing it. And Rusty, if you see this, leave a message, like comment, so I could know that you're able to finally comment on my videos. This is dedicated to Rusty Spooner. If the Jets get out of the streak, it will be done on accident. If we don't, because Woody did anything intentional. That's how it kind of feels, doesn't it? Reich will get us a quarterback. Don't worry. I hope so. Tony Alexio, you're a great guy. You're all great. Take care, everyone. I gotta go. Ciao.